Hey everybody. Here, I'll fix my hair just to make myself pay attention to, my glamour here. Anyway, so, wow, the last 3 weeks has been pretty crazy. I've been working on a lot of research and location of documents and talking to lots of different people and just kind of working on my own legal stuff. So, all I do is research, fill out, communicate, talk to all kinds of different people, find new locations of information and forms, and, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, some of you might, be doing the same thing. I decided this morning that I would talk about something that's really controversial. It's probably going to be really upsetting for a lot of people, but I think if you know this information, you kind of understand more of the dynamics of things that are going on subliminally, symbolically, like behind the scenes. All right, so for all you OPPT people, I was reading that Heather was arrested by the FBI in Washington, D.C. And so I'm not going to really comment a whole lot on that because it's not good or bad. It's just what they do. So, for example, it is a story that they've been feeding you. Well, they wrote a whole Bible around it, right? The threats, the subliminal messages of what will happen to you. And we'll call it, what will happen to you if you be Jesus, right? If you be Jesus, you act like Jesus in any way, shape, or form, and we will arrest you, try to get you to negotiate some guilt so that we can give you a lesser, violation. Mind we make the decision. And then if you won't negotiate to some fake, made-up guilt violation that we've, put on you, then we will take you out in front of everybody, whip you till you're bloody and you have no skin left, and let you bleed and suffer like the worst kind of physical pain. Then we'll drag your ass through the whole town, and then we will put you on a cross, and you can hang there until you die. And if you don't die within 3 days, then we're going to pierce your heart so that you'll just finally bleed to death. And then that'll be it. And then you have a question, like, how good are you with God? Because Jesus resurrected. Do you really think that you have that potential to resurrect yourself? And it's going to be in a spirit form. It ain't going to be your body, because your body's like done in. The vessel for which you're here to do whatever you're supposed to do. But you never get to it because of the enslavement policies. So, when anybody ever raises to a certain level of knowledge, so I'm going to talk about something else too that kind of goes along kind of with it. It's a piece of my puzzle. So who in the Bible tried to present knowledge? Now, I'm not advocating reptilian species who do harm and eat people and are the real venomous aggressors on the planet, right? Because they're the ones that would be arresting you. They would be the ones that would be accusing you of something to get something from you, or to prove to the population you're being a Jesus and, we have to do to you what we did to Jesus. I mean, Can't you people get it? This is how you know that they created these religions. Because, look at what's held on the church wall in the form of Jesus, a white person, hello, with blue eyes, right? And this is what we've done to him, to him. So this is your big leader. Well, your big leader can't save you from us, is basically what that is saying, right? But then they've given you another script called the Bible that, oh, well, Jesus did this for you. Well, no, he was brought into a justice system just like the ones Heather is being dragged into, if that's true, under false pretense. And, they're trying to scare her enough that she will negotiate some fake guilt, that they've made up, violation. And then they threaten her with ultimately, finding her guilty, tearing all of her skin off, making her suffer, hanging her on a cross, and then, piercing her heart, which is, we're going to damage your heart. Any goodness that's left in there, we're going to drag you through every possible post-traumatic stress disorder personally designed for you. So by the time we're done with you, you won't give a fuck about anyone or anything. So there are something I've been thinking about, right? Because I dealt with a lot of snake medicine. Always have since I was a little girl. First dreams I ever had were about snakes. These snakes were my protectors. And they told me things that I would later know to make things a lot easier in my transition. For example, first dream I ever had when can remember is giant snakes in this kind of apocalyptic type world. After apocalyptic kind of world, fiery, and the giant red cobra snake was chasing me and my uncle, and everything else and everybody else in my family had been pretty much killed. So when I came to the period of my life, started in 98, when all my family members started dropping dead, most of them through 2003. I realized that the snake, wasn't chasing me and my uncle, that it was trying to convey to us a message, or convey to me a message that in my family eventually, there's only going to be 2 left. And now I realize it's talking on different levels: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. I still have a few family members that are alive, but they are completely 100% asleep. I mean, so far asleep, have no idea what you would inject in them to even remotely get them conscious. So that's death. I mean, that's definitely some kind of, a death. So something I've been working with for a long time, I think that there are snake, reptilian, dragon beings that are like the snake in the Bible, except for, we've also been told don't listen to these, beings, these reptilian snake beings. They're going to offer you knowledge, and you don't want that because things aren't going to work out for you. The smarter you get, the more knowledge base you get, the further you get out of Eden. Well, what is Eden? Eden is their world, the bad guys' world that they've developed. And what happens? The more knowledge you gain, usually the poorer you get, the less ability you can find work or jobs, or, it's designed that way. It's a system program. So the moment you start walking down those avenues of knowledge, this is what the program dishes out to you. It's just a holographic experience. So it's just part of, you being kicked out of Eden. So what happens is, on a symbolic, right brain languaging that they've designed, it's programming you to stay away from anything with knowledge, anything that you might have contact with them, the powers that be, that can threaten you or throw you in jail, and all these different things. And the code is Jesus and what they did to Jesus. That's the symbolic code. Now you can try to, decipher the Bible and all this other stuff with your left hemisphere, which is language, it's the past, it's the future, it's detail oriented, technical, all these things. But you're not going to really have a full understanding of it until you understand the symbolic language that's being received through the right hemisphere or not right hemisphere. A lot of people have serious brain lateralization problems, that their right brain, they've had so much post-traumatic stress disorder already, even, up to 5 years old, that their right hemisphere is not really working. And just because you're an artist does not make you right-brained. Sorry. Art can be very technical, so you're also dealing with the left brain, right? So anyway, so what happens is this whole story about Jesus and the Garden of Eden and all these other things are symbolic language that's being spoken, imagery that's being spoken and designed. And then you have Jesus hanging on the wall in the church or crosses wherever you go. Crosses are the symbol of the Anunnaki. I mean, I don't think most people realize that, right? So they were the species that created the white species, right? So, yeah, do the math. They're telling you that they created the religion. And they created the entity, the identifier, Jesus, on the cross to project a story and an image so that you won't be like Jesus. And you have to be extra, extra good, because right now, your right brain says there's nothing or anyone on this planet that actually could save us, because, Jesus couldn't even protect himself. And that's really what they want you to believe, right? So you got to constantly be working for salvation and redemption and all these things that are unnecessary, that obviously you already have. Because all my native teachers, medicine teachers and shaman teachers always tell me that everything in this world is reverse. So if they're trying to tell you that you constantly need redemption and whatever else, salvation, that the reverse is true. You already have it. So, but salvation is your job, right? It's your personal journey. It isn't like somebody else's journey. So, I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact that, maybe beings like Anunnaki that are partially reptilian, or some that created us by design. I mean, yes, they have used us as a slave, but they gave us a whole bunch of things to maybe help us free ourselves in the future. They taught us math. This is all in the Sumerian tablets, that we were designed in a petri dish, partially Anunnaki and partially whatever humanoids were here. I would suspect that native people, or, close to Mesopotamia. So they would have been, the first people that were here, that were I've talked about this before, that were the original peoples, native peoples, and they all have the same bloodline. The white people were all different from them. We're all different hybrids, off the offshoot. So, it says in the Sumerian tablets that even though the Anunnaki made us, the white race, that they also try to teach us math, even though we worked in their mines and mining gold and we were enslaved. But they also taught us a lot of things, right? They taught us how to think, how to calculate, how to develop ourselves, right? So they gave us a gift and ability for, thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the future. So not that I'm gonna, like I said, worship the ground they walk on. That's really not what's going to happen. But maybe there were some reptilians that have actually offered us freedom if we work for it, right? So the snake comes to the Garden of Eden, which is like the worst thing, you know, like in the Bible, like, oh, it was the doom, you know. Well, they need you to think it was the doom, right? Because that's how their whole program is designed. And you just gotta keep moving forward. You know, you gotta like pick yourself up and work through the fear and the subconscious design. I mean, what you're dealing with, you know, when you have these moments where you're like terrified about things that you're doing or rabbit holes you're going down or everything else, you gotta move through that stuff. You gotta breathe and you gotta move through the fear of the design and the rules of the design. And, you know, I'm a skeptic whether Jesus was real or not. I think that maybe there was a person who was similar to Jesus. There's a lot of us who are similar to Jesus. You know, I was raising bugs from the dead when I was 5 years old. So they're not far-fetched. There are lots of people that have that story, right? And it also is part of, you know, what has terrified me most of my life, of really helping people and really helping them to heal and lots of other things, right? I'm not afraid anymore. Haven't been afraid for a while. But, you know, they came after me. The government came after me and shut me down and tried to cease and desist me, threatened me with, I remember at one location that I was working on people for free. I had a mini clinic. They could come in and get reboots and stuff like that. And it was pretty much free. Because these people were addicts and people who really needed help. They really needed to kind of move their assemblage point in their body and see themselves from a totally different standpoint and see the world that they're around from a totally different standpoint. Even if it only lasted for a little while, because they were so entrenched in their ritualized mechanics of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So, and I know a lot of people don't understand my work, man. I get kicked off of people's Facebook pages and blocked because they don't really understand real health and real medicine. And I start talking about things that they've never heard of, and even the most conscious people, and they freak out. So these are not, you know, like easy ideas for people to be able to deal with. So anyway, they, you know, came after me so many times. And at this one location, they had a server serve me a cease and desist right there where I'm working at people for free. And never had a complaint against me. And they said that if I didn't leave the premise in 1 hour, that they would have me arrested by the police. Yeah. So I left in 1 hour, because this is still back when I was getting my legs under me, let's just say that. And so a lot of this stuff has already been designed for you to bump up against it and run the other way. Let's just say that, because the symbolic language that's stuck in your mind is you'll never be like Jesus. So you need constant salvation and other things in order to get to that level. But the other thing too, there's part of you that's like, nah, your right brain is like, we don't want to be like that, because we don't want to be like accused of something and then have all of our skin ripped off and go through like torture and then, you know, be hung out and everybody gets to see, you know, what's happening to us and what's being done to us. And they're going to, you know, pierce our heart. They're going to damage our heart. They're going to take away whatever, you know, goodness that is in us, completely and totally destroy it. And so on a symbolic level in the right hemisphere is not interested in that, but it can't compute. Right brain doesn't really, because we're not as conscious as we think we are. So the right brain can't really communicate really well to the left brain, because the left brain discredits it, right? Because the left brain deals with totally different things. It's almost like two people arguing, and the right brain will give up arguing because it doesn't really care if it's right or not. It just wants to live in peace and omnipotence and in the present moment, and eventually it'll just shut down. It'll just shut off. So you'll just be left brain lateralized. And that means that you will never heal. You will die of the disease that you have, no matter what it is, because you need the right brain to bring you into the present moment in order to spontaneously heal or to have a greater understanding. So there are two snakes, right, that are symbolized in a lot of other religions. People say it's sexuality. It's not sexuality. It has nothing to do with sexuality, right? That's just another, preconceived notion that they're feeding you, so that you'll be like, involved in something else, a distraction, right? To find enlightenment. So the two snakes going up the spine symbolize in both sides of the brain. But there's a right hemisphere snake, and then there's a left hemisphere snake. And they're not fighting for position, right? It's either you choose enlightenment, you choose the truth, you choose the understandings, you do the research, you show up, you take the action part of your brain, you do the practices, whatever else it's going to be, to reach the right hemisphere, to reach the right understanding of the right hemisphere. So your right hemisphere is connected to your heart on the left side. When you have heart, you have to do the work to get into the right hemisphere. There's a really good video that I like that sort of helps people to understand that we're two beings, we're separate entities. So when they say that we need to come into unity, it's a unified mind, which is our two brains working together, which like no one has on this planet. And both sides of your body unified, because your right brain deals with your left side, your left brain deals with your right side. So you're two completely separate counterparts. So you need to unify you. And then you have a torus field, right? Go look up a torus field. Now, if you're not a unified being, then your torus field's not going to be working right. You're going to have one side that's working, right, and one side that's not. So you're going to be lopsided. You're going to have a speed wobble. So it's about you being a unified being, right? It's about you having a whole brain function. It's about you utilizing all of your technologies just in your physical body and using them to regulate all of your programs and systems so that you're operating as a unified being. And then you can operate within the unified system. But first you have to be a unified being, because like has to attract like. So you can't be in the unified system if you're not a unified being. Anyway, I probably should stop rambling on about stuff and get this up and posted. But, what they're doing to Heather, if it's true and it's factual, she's been arrested, is the oldest religious story on earth. And she needs to walk through it, right? So that she can, find herself and make the decisions necessary and see what they're going to do or not do. But only she can figure that out. And only we individually can figure it out. But remember, it's programming. Bible's programming, Garden of Eden stories programming, the crucifixion of Christ is programming. It's kind of like the first, prosecution story, right? Really, and what they'll do to you, and you won't be able to do anything because you're just not going to be right, and you're not going to be proven right, whether you negotiate your fake guilt, or you don't negotiate your fake guilt, right? So the only way you can test that system is by trying. So I just want to leave you with this statement. You know, I was growing up, my grandmother, who kind of raised me, my mom's side, she was Pentecostal, like full on old school Pentecostal, like, you know, people dancing and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff that went on. But to us, it was normal, you know, because we were a crazy family of healers and shamans and stuff. So it seemed more normal than regular world. But my grandmother hid in there because she could utilize her gifts, right? And she was a prophet. She had the gift of prophecy, and she also was an exorcist. So her whole family were kind of like that, exorcist kind of things. I've brought mine more into the more traditional kind of shaman perspectives. Anyway, so I was kind of, I mean, you know, we talked about the Bible a lot because my grandma had to study it to make sure that, you know, she could, you know. And in the end, you know, before she died, I think she took it as truth. You know, it like worked on her so long for so many years that, you know, it became like her identity kind of a thing, the whole biblical thing. So anyway, there's a phrase in the Bible, and God, I always forget where it's at, but I think it's like Philippians 12:12 or something like that. And it's in the red, right? Right. They more than likely developed the story of Jesus. So, but they tell you something legally in there, right? If you want to look at it as legal information, they tell you the truth there. And Jesus in red is supposedly saying, continue to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So they're also telling you the key. You gotta walk. You have to experience it. You have to save your own self by walking through the fire to get to the other side of salvation. You saving yourself. So I get a lot of flack from pastors and all kinds of people for that. They're like, you're taking it out of context. It's like, well, it seems like it's a perfectly stable statement on its own, right? Kind of a thing. But, you know, they're not going to tell you that in churches because they've been trained to be the brokers of disinformation to get you to stay in line. They are also involved in the mind control scam. You cannot trust them. You can trust yourself. And if you see people out there who are being arrested for doing good or bringing knowledge, they're going to go through a crucifixion process. So we want to send them super great energy. Not that they'll win or lose, but we want to just send them energy that they can utilize from the quantum field of all potential, because they're going to have to use different potentials as they go along, as their understanding develops through these processes. So you never want to send them good or bad. That's cursing them and blocking them in, even the good. We want to send them energy of infinite potential for them to figure it out for themselves, or wherever their path needs to lead them in a good way for their own self. So sending energy towards this stuff, that's the thing that you think about. You want to say, I just want to send the energy. I want to send the whole energy, and that they can utilize it for whatever they want. And I'm not going to block them in with, I hope they win, I hope they lose, whatever else it's going to be. Because they need to walk their road. They don't need any more roadblocks from me or anyone else, right? They need to just have access to the quantum field of potential and all possibilities so that they can pick and choose with a whole brain function what they're going to use to put their pieces together, not what I think I'm going to give them. Plus, we're operating on lower energy frequencies. We send them those lower energy frequencies, even if we think they're good. It's always just better to send unlimited, infinite potential and possibility, right? And get your shit out of the way, right? Get yourself out of the way, and let them deal with, to continue out their own salvation with fear and trembling, and moving to the other side of their crucifixion to see what's really there. And if they can resurrect themselves, right? If there is like resurrection for them, past that. But that's up to them, right? That's up to them. That's their story within the system and how the system is playing out. So anyway, I hope that helps people. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if like the information I give people even helps them, or to give them, any kind of understanding. And I just want everybody to know that I seriously don't want to harm anyone or anything. And so if this information seems really disturbing to you, I apologize for that. And then I just want to let you know that this is my understanding about this reality. And it doesn't have to be your understanding. But you can, fully reject it if that's what's necessary for your continued effort of salvation. So one of the cats, that cat is Sissy, and she is a ham and show off, as you can tell. So she's giving me her tail. Must be time to end this, right? So anyway, a little cat dragon energy for you. So hopefully that will give you some good medicine for the day. The cats carry the dragon medicine energy, so for us. And they are the takers and remover of all the old energies. So she just kind of helped you guys to move some old energy. Even paused for a minute, gave you a little tail. Okay. Anyway, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. And like I said, not trying to do any harm. Just maybe I'm the snake in the story of the Garden of Eden. And it's always a choice. Stay stuck or gain knowledge. All right. Blessings. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.